Okay, so this is Ask GMBN. This is where we get to answer all your mountain bike related questions. Don't forget to file them into ask@gmbn.com and we'll answer as many as we can. So I'll fire them to you and see how we get cracking.
Let's get going.
Okay, Village Invader Films. What's the difference between wet lube and dry lube, and when should I use the two? I live in an area with lots of dust, dirt, mud and rain.
So yes, you probably have both. It's all about, well, I've always understood it as wet lube should be used in wet conditions, dry lube in dry conditions. But to be honest, my go-to lube's always been dry lube, and I just lube it up quite often. So after every ride, even in the winter, just because I find wet lube is quite sticky, which means it stays long on the chain, but also all the mud and grit sticks to your chain, so it can wear it out if you don't clean it. Cool,
do you carry any with you on the trail?
I don't often go on rides long enough to have to re-lube halfway through, but yeah, that is true. Dry lube can wear off quick-ish.
Okay, so CCS, can I use all-purpose oil to lube my suspension?
I would say so, yeah. I've done that before where you just use a zip tie, that little trick to sort of prise open your seal a little bit, use a bit of lube in there, a few pushes on your fork and it just pulls all the dirt out of your seals. Wipe your stanchion off and then your seals are nice and lubed, should feel quite good.
Another little handy tip at home as well is to flip your bike upside down, and if your forks have still got lube on the inside, you can sort of lube the wiper seals that way round.
Nice.
Simeo W, will we see 30-inch wheels in the future on bikes?
I hope not. Yeah, it's funny, wasn't it? Wheels have got bigger, obviously, but where do we stop? Hopefully 29 inches.
Yeah, well, you remember that April Fool last year?
Yes, well, Focus bikes do actually, I don't know if it's a one-off.
It was released on that date.
Yeah, but I don't know what size it is, isn't it 36?
36, yeah. Yeah, and there's a US brand called Dirty Sixer that have a 36 and soon to be a 32-inch wheel.
Hey, nobody needs that.
Well, they're designed for the taller folk.
Well,
maybe.
Maybe.
TTC, my tube constantly goes flat. Just the other day I went riding and halfway down the track it went flat. I've checked the tyre and rim, nothing was wrong. Chucked in another one, went flat instantly. It's been happening for 2 months.
Wow, it's got to be something. I would think it's probably something in your tyre. It's generally the most likely thing. So I would double check there isn't a thorn in there somewhere. But I don't know, what do you think? It's got to be something puncturing it.
Yeah, I'd guess so.
Rim tape, make sure there's nothing. But I mean, that's unlikely that your rim's going to do it, I think.
You get the occasion where you've got a long spoke that pokes through.
Yeah.
Or a sharp sort of sharp hole.
Double check, I would say.
Okay, Eric Lee, what are the differences between inserting tokens in the fork or just putting high pressure in the fork?
So inserting tokens actually changes the characteristic of your suspension through its travel, whereas making it harder just makes it harder. So it's all about the sort of kinematics of the fork. Adding tokens makes it more progressive, i.e. the further you go into the travel, the harder it gets to actually push the fork down, whereas if you put air in, it gets harder the whole way through.
Perfectly said, yeah. Tom Banter, can I use a hardtail on a downhill course?
Oh wait, you always get asked that. You can, there's no reason why you can't use a hardtail. It's going to be rough. It's not going to be as fast as a full suspension bike, but you can do it, definitely.
I just want to throw to 10 reasons to get a hardtail right here. Okay, Kiss Karada Kiss. I always snap my derailleur when I'm landing flat from big jumps. Why is that?
I would say you've got to check your limit screws would be my first thing. That can often snap mechs and hangers. If your mech is going into the wheel or even the other way, you just don't want it to over travel. So that would be my first thing. Make sure your hanger isn't bent, because that could also mean that it travels sort of further into the wheel than you want to. Or fix your landings, make them a bit smoother, I'd say.
Michael Aim is the pro. What can I do about squeaky brake pads?
Well, it can be some things to do with setup, but sometimes brakes just squeak. Definitely in the cold and in the wet, they're more likely to squeak.
Yeah, definitely. They can they heat up, they get warm, and it works. When they're cold, damp, and they don't have the adhesion on the disc. Contamination as well.
Yeah,
that's
a big reason for the rear ones where people's brakes are squealing. There's a bit of oil on there from overspraying on the chain.
And in which case, you've got 2 methods around that. You can either clean them with isopropyl alcohol or a disc brake cleaner, and then file them down with some rough sandpaper. But pretty much if your brake pads are contaminated, you probably want to get some new ones, I'd say.
Yeah, they can be too badly contaminated, yeah. Yeah, check that your calipers are square as well. That can make them squeak if they're maybe a little bit off centre, so your disc isn't running straight. But
Laurie Williams Photography. Why is my new dropper post really hard to push down? It's a hydraulic one.
Well, is it set up correctly would be my first thing. Is by hydraulic we're talking about RockShox reverb with a hydraulic button, I would think, rather than some posts are hydraulic action with cable. In that case, I would check the cable, make sure you've got the right tension on there, that you're actually pushing it the whole way open. What do you think? It's quite a tough one.
If it is a RockShox one, like you mentioned, I think perhaps you might need to bleed the actual hose from the lever itself to the post, because sometimes if there's not enough fluid, it doesn't depress fully.
Right.
And it can make it a bit of a mission to get it up and down.
Yeah, I know what you mean, yeah.
So, process of elimination again, I think.
Get someone to check it. They might be able to tell you if it is just one of those posts, it is quite hard to push down, or if there's a problem going on.
Good luck with that. Hope you work that one out. Zach Jones, I can bunny hop fairly well, but I can't manual whatsoever. How does that make any sense?
Well, I might be a bit rude here, but I would say probably your bunny hop isn't quite the right technique, because you're probably just pulling with your feet. If you're not manualing at all to lift the front wheel, then I would say you're probably staying in the middle of the bike and just pulling the bike up into the air, which does work. It's not the best technique. I always go on about this in my bunny hop technique videos. So I would say practice your manuals and make sure you are getting back behind the saddle, and it will make a big difference on the trail.
Simeo W, is it better to do my training sessions on a road bike or an enduro bike?
I would say either or. I do both. I like to ride a road bike because you jump on the bike and you're on it straight away. 3 hours, I'm done, 2 hours, whatever. Whereas an enduro bike, you might have to ride the trails or, you know, drive the trails, whatever. So for me, I like to do most of my endurance training on a road bike and more of my sprint training on a mountain bike where it's more up and down. But neither is wrong, I would say.
Yeah, we've got a great video on how to build base miles. Check that out right here.
By adding these rides to your program, you will build oxygen-rich blood to your muscles. You will produce more mitochondria that help turn stored fuel into energy, and with time, you'll be able to ride faster and longer.
Okay, Robert Benassi, how can I improve the smoothness in descents with a high cross-country saddle? I constantly feel it between my legs and it doesn't really allow me to go off the back of the bike.
Oh, it's a really difficult question to answer because it is hard. I do ride a cross-country bike without a dropper post, but to be honest, I sort of realise my limitations and don't try and go that fast on it. It's really hard to pick your front wheel up if you need to off a step or something like that, because it's really not nice getting behind the saddle. So you just have to go steady and stick a dropper seat post on there if you really want to be fast down.
Do you, out of interest, do you run your saddle at full height?
I actually run it, I wouldn't say too low, but yeah, it's not at the maximum height I would normally have, I would say. But it feels fine. It's not, you know, my knees are bending slightly, you know, more than normal, but it feels efficient enough to me.
It seemed to be a sort of setup for a lot of the XC pros we were watching the other day.
Yeah, I'm surprised actually a lot of the cross-country pros run them slightly lower than they're definitely used to, I would say. So
it's practice basically, it makes perfect.
Yeah.
Michael R's, when I'm riding fast, I tend to hear a clicking from the back of the bike. What could it be? How do I fix it?
Oh, I don't know. Process of elimination, I would start by picking up your back wheel, spinning it. Sometimes it could be something as simple as your rear mech cable is just in the spoke or something. I guess you'd probably notice that because that's more obvious. But bearings in the rear wheel, bearings in your bottom bracket if you're spinning your pedals.
Yeah, it's a minefield. Just like you said, process of elimination. Perhaps start pedaling. Does it do it when you pedal? Does it do it when you not pedal?
Suspension links.
Sat up.
Press fit bottom bracket. I guess that's my first thing I'll go to.
Yeah.
Have one of those. Mine's creaks at the moment, so.
There's a lot of stuff on them. I didn't fix your one, have they?
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did Blake's instead. Total Defender. Love the videos, guys. I keep getting bucked forwards when riding steep kickers. Ooh. That wonderful over the bars feeling. How do I get around this?
We've all done it. Right, it could be 3 things, I would say. It could be technique, so make sure you're getting back on the bike to try and lift the front wheel and then forward to lift the rear wheel and not getting kicked. Could be your rear suspension, if that's set up with really fast rebound. As soon as they leave the takeoff, they go dunk and they can kick you forward. Third thing is it could be the takeoff of the jump. Sometimes jumps aren't built very well. There might be like a real transition at the bottom and then it flattens off. Or it could just have a bit of a knuckle to the top of it, so that can cause that. So a few different things, I would say. So yeah, check your technique first, I would say, on your bunny hop.
Isaac Yenstrand, can I ride plus size tyres on my original rims?
Technically, it's probably possible. Do you think? You're going to get a funny shaped tyre, I would think.
As long as your rim's not like a cross-country super narrow rim, I think you could.
So what would it do? It would sort of pull the tyre around into more of a sort of balloony shape, wouldn't it? Rather than, you know, plus rims are quite wide, so it makes it stand a bit further out.
I guess it also depends on if it's, when the early plus size tyres came out, they were 3-inch, but most people are settled on 2.8 now, which isn't a million miles from a 2.4.
That is true. I would say you're going to get the most benefit from a wider rim, because that's when you get that more stable. You know, basically what they're trying to sell it on is this more stable bead. So, I don't know. That is the correct answer.
Oh, there's a question here Martin would have loved. Yanni H. Why do competition trials riders use rim brakes whilst disc brakes are obviously stronger? I don't think the weight trade matters so much.
I've asked this question myself, and I think the answer is they want something that's really grabby, whereas a disc brake is sort of more modular. You can actually get a better feel for it. I think they want it either on or off, but I'll have to ask mine for you.
I think you're absolutely bang on there, because I remember trying some old school Maguras, and it was on or off. Yeah, there was no modulation at all, so that's got to be the answer. I think so. For a video on what is trials riding, click down here. It tells you everything you need to know.
Trials riding is without doubt one of the most technical forms of bike riding there is. And it comes in many different forms, but in mountain biking it comes under two guises. Competition trials, which is all about technical ability and gymnastic moves, and then street trials, which is more creative and using your imagination to negotiate obstacles out on the street.
Okay, so time for quick fire. You ready for these?
I'm ready, let's do it.
Okay. Simeon LW, will you do any more collaborations with GCN in the future?
Of course, doing one next week. Actually, I'm going to race cross country. Sai from GCN is doing it on a cross bike. I'm doing it on a cross country bike.
Whoa, who's going to win that?
Well, Sai is.
Turbo Robert. Will you come to Finland?
I'd love to. I'm off to Norway. That's quite close. Next month. Finland, love to, definitely.
Yanni H, what about video of Doddy riding?
Yes, let's see it. We'll do it soon.
We haven't done one yet. We need to, as soon as possible, I hope.
Yep.
Andreas Robeck, can I use 510 clip shoes for flat pedals?
Wouldn't recommend it. They're going to be really hard soled, so you're not going to get much grip.
Toasty Bear, please send Neil, or maybe Blake, to Rampage. It'd be such a sick series of videos.
Please let me come to Rampage. I'm trying to organise it at the moment, actually. It's October, isn't it? September, October. I'd love to go to Rampage, so there are talks about it at the moment. Young
Austria, when are you guys going to try Canada Lefty?
Never.
I've tried one many times.
Apparently they're all right.
They are. They're strange though. You know, riding with half a fork. This is a conversation for a different time, I think. CJ Tack, when are we going to see the video with Sam Pilgrim and Blake at Windhill Bike Park?
I don't know. Coming soon, I think. Yeah.
Super Plush Gaming TV. How about how to become a GM? How do I become a GMBN presenter? Not by talking like that.
That's a very good question. I'm not sure any of us know how. You've got to love riding bikes and like talking in front of camera. It's kind of easy.
Gabriel Griffith, can you paint your foot extensions without it affecting performance?
No, I would say that's probably
a trick question?
I mean, it might be worth trying, but no, it's probably the answer.
Just don't do it. It's not worth the hassle.
Yes. Okay. Right, that's quickfire round done, is it?
Yep.
Pretty quick. So now it's time for Correct Me If I'm Wrong. We'll take a look at your videos that you've sent in and try and give you some advice on technique if we can. So send your video to ask@gmbn.com. First one comes from Cole McCourt. We're saying, what can I do to make my moto whips more sideways and stylish? On the BMX track, that's pretty good, carving his way up the takeoff. That's nice.
It's not a bad effort, I think.
Brings it back nice as well. I think it's really good. I would say you're going to need a bigger jump to do really big whips. So get riding, get practicing bigger jumps, but technique really good on that. Nice one. It's really cool.
The second one is from Patrick Gill. Please correct my technique if it's wrong. I'm learning how to do drops. Love your channel.
Cheers, Patrick. Right, drops. So thing to learn is manuals, and then sort of that's what you need to do on a drop off going slow. If you've got a bit more speed on a drop off, you can just roll to the back of the bike. That look pretty good. It's definitely a case of trying to drop your heels to get your weight behind the pedal, slightly behind the bike, and keep your head up. and stay off the brakes, but that looked really good. I would say thing to practice is find a really small drop and go slower and slower, so you're still keeping your front wheel up using more technique to do it, and that is pretty much drop off dialed. Same technique for small or big drops, but nice one, it's good.
Okay, so don't forget to subscribe by clicking on the globe right here. If you want to get some more videos, there's 3 ways to join the chain right here.
Click over here for does a dropper post make you faster, and don't forget to leave your question in the comment section down below. And give us a thumbs up, that'd be ace.